You are about to enter another dimension, the dimension of truth, unfiltered and uncensored. Welcome to the Raw Feed with Gary Franchi.
Welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, coming to you live from the heart of America. Unfiltered truth to millions on YouTube. Hit those donation links below. Every contribution powers our gear. Every contribution keeps the party going. Help me help you. Hit those donation links. YouTube channel memberships. Special acknowledgement in the fellowship. Your super chats keep me standing. Your Rumble rants fuel every round.
Say hello to super chats.
Spread the intel. Every repost extends our reach.
Super chats fuel this spectacle. Your Rumble rants give me strength.
24/7 members-only community, behind-the-scenes discussions.
Connect with fellow patriots.
Share this via text message. Send it to your friends. Text bypasses everything. Just do it. The app is real. Download the Next News Network app. Android users, take the Google Play path. iPhone users, App Store awaits. Breaking news in real time.
The man the FBI told you for 5 years they couldn't find was living in a Virginia suburb the entire time. Good evening, America. I'm Gary Franchi. This is the Raw Feed, your frontline source for the stories the mainstream media buries, spins, or just flat out lies about. Tonight, the walls are crumbling, the masks are slipping, and the establishment's choking on its own narrative. You know, 150 years ago today, on December 4th, 1875, a man named William Boss Tweed made a desperate escape from Ludlow Street Jail in New York City. Tweed was the kingpin of Tammany Hall, the infamous Democrat political machine that looted the city treasury for millions, rigged elections, and operated a shadow government where insiders got rich while ordinary citizens paid the price. For years, Tweed told everyone he was untouchable. The press exposed him anyway. The courts convicted him anyway. And on this day in 1875, he ran like a coward because the walls had finally closed in. And tonight, 150 years later, different names, same story. The political machines are still running. The insiders are still getting rich. And one by one, they are all being exposed. Now, tonight we begin with the bombshell that just detonated in Woodbridge, Virginia. The January 6th bomber, pipe bomber, the ghost the Biden DOJ could never catch, the specter the January 6th committee spent $17 million chasing, has a name now, allegedly Brian Cole Jr. And here's the part that has the entire establishment scrambling. Early reports say that he's not a MAGA extremist. He's being described as an anarchist. The same evidence sat there for years. New leadership took another look, and within weeks, they had their man. What exactly was the old FBI doing? So apparently, the original story that came from Steve Baker, who identified a female, was wildly incorrect. Or was it? Is this just another cover-up in the making? We'll find out. But that's not all. We have major developments tonight on stories that we've been tracking. The Autopen scandal just got a whole lot bigger. President Trump went on a late-night Truth Social rampage, firing off over 160 posts in just 5 hours. Buried in that barrage was a repost of Alex Jones content featuring Patrick Byrne, who claims Michelle Obama may have used Biden's Autopen to push through some last-minute pardons. The media is calling Trump unhinged. His supporters are calling it the exposure of the shadow presidency. You decide. And then there is Minnesota, still in the spotlight, where Governor Tim Walz is now playing victim because people are shouting mean words at his house from the man who called half the country fascist. And while Walz cries about language, ICE is raiding Minneapolis, billion-dollar fraud networks are being exposed, and Mike Lindell just filed to take his job. The pillow man versus the fraud governor. Yes, it's happening. We also have a critical update on the narco boat war crimes hoax. Remember when Democrats told you Pete Hegseth and President Trump committed international war crimes by striking drug traffickers? Well, ABC, yeah, they just blew that narrative to pieces, believe it or not. Drone footage shows those so-called innocent survivors climbing back onto the boat to salvage the cocaine. The hoax is collapsing, and we have the receipts. And finally, the insider trading reckoning that we've been covering just reached a new level. Representative Anna Paulina Luna filed her discharge petition to force a vote on banning congressional stock trades. Democrats on spending committees just got exposed, raking in gains that would make Wall Street blush. Nancy Pelosi's portfolio empire is staring down a firing squad, and 86% of Americans are cheering it on. So Boss Tweed thought he could run from justice 150 years ago today. They caught him in Spain and dragged him back in chains. Tonight, a new generation of political insiders, from Autopen handlers to insider traders to fraud enablers, are learning the same lesson Tweed learned the hard way. You can run, you can hide, you can spin, you can lie, but eventually the truth catches up. This is the Raw Feed. No scripts from the establishment, no protection for the powerful, just the truth, raw and unfiltered. And let's welcome you to the show. Who's in the house tonight? Let's see those names light up the chat. Pothead Kenny, Mrs. Pothead Kenny, Bill's Rules, Imagination, Morgan Edwards, Karen Finley, Tyson Curie. Gangs all here. The mods are wielding the wrenches of power. Arresto Biden, Courier. Sure You is here. Who else is in the house? Bill's Rules. Let's keep going. Silver Bells. Deborah Gomez. I'm going to send a quick text message to one of my friends over on X because he is helping us support the show. And what he does is he shares the posts when we go live. And I'm actually going to send it to him right now. We can get those numbers up. So this is what you should be doing at this very moment. You should be picking up your phone and you should be copying the link and sending it to your friends, your family. You should be reposting the feed and helping us get the message out. So let's get into it. We got a lot of news to cover tonight. We're a little behind schedule and trying to keep the energy up for you guys. Not going to lie, it's been a long day for me, but the news never sleeps. Let's get into it. For nearly 5 years, they told you the January 6th pipe bomber was a ghost, unsolvable. Then just last month, Blaze Media dropped a bombshell claiming the bomber was actually a female Capitol police officer named Shauna Ray Kirkhoff. Identified through gait analysis, Steve Baker staked his reputation on it, and now suddenly the FBI swoops in and arrests a completely different person, an alleged anarchist living in the Virginia suburbs. Well, tonight that bomber has a name, but some are asking, is Brian Cole Jr. the real bomber, or is he a patsy to bury the deeper story? So here's what's at stake, because for 5 years, the unsolved pipe bomb case was Exhibit A in the insurrection narrative. It justified surveillance, prosecutions, and labeling half of the country as domestic terrorists. Then Steve Baker and Blaze Media published their investigation claiming former Capitol Police Officer Shawnee Ray Kirkhoff matched the bomber's gait, build, and movements. That story sent shockwaves through conservative media. Now, weeks later, the FBI, under new leadership, arrests Brian Cole Jr., and the official story pivots overnight. So which is it? Did Trump's team crack the case the Biden DOJ buried for years, or did they just hand the establishment a convenient fall guy to protect the person that Baker identified? Yes, some online are already calling Cole a patsy. Others say Baker got it wrong, and this arrest vindicates the new FBI. Well, the truth matters, because if the wrong person's in custody, the real person, the real bomber, walks free and the cover-up continues. And as we wrap up 2025, it's a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. If there's one thing that we've all learned, it's that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan, it's a gamble. And for over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves by diversifying their wealth with gold and silver. Now, nobody knows what 2026 will bring, okay? But one thing is for sure, real wealth isn't digital. It's physical, it's lasting, and it is yours. So make sure before the end of the year, you visit nextnewsgold.com and get your free wealth protection kit. That's nextnewsgold.com. Do not leave your future to chance. Or you can call that number on the screen, 877-646-5347, and find out how you can get 10 1-ounce silver holiday coins with qualified accounts. So where are we now? We are going to continue with this story. We have this. This is where it gets messier, because Brian Cole Jr. is being described as an anarchist, potentially tied to Antifa-style circles. His father reportedly runs an immigration bail bond company. Commentators are calling it a revolution as a rich man's game. But Steve Baker's defenders are not backing down. Some insist Baker was onto something deeper, and this arrest is designed to shut down the investigation before it went further. Others point out that Blaze Media now faces potential defamation exposure if Kirkhoff sues. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, who was near the DNC bomb that night, she's silenced. The January 6th committee that spent $17 million, felt like years, not a word. Now, whether Cole's the real bomber or a convenient scapegoat, the establishment is scrambling to control the story. Now, here's what we have right now. This Luke Rosiak posting that the accused pipe bomber Brian Cole worked to get illegal immigrants out of ICE facilities and sued Trump's DHS D.C. Court of Appeals and ruled against him weeks before January 6th. Brian, I'm working on it. You don't need to do anything. Please. He later hired Trayvon Martin's attorney to call on Biden's DOJ to punish anti-black racism. The suspect arrested for the January 5th, 2021 pipe bombs outside the RNC worked for his father, bail bond company, statewide bonding.
Would be Mr. Brian Cole, the president of Free at Last Bail Bond Company, Mr. Cole?
Yes. I've done business all over the United States. I'm in 20 states.
Now, to be clear, the man speaking is the father. It is allegedly his son who is the one that has been arrested today. So I'm only presenting this to you just so you can understand.
the opposition that I've met with Zimmerman coming after our company the way he has. He's defamed me. He's called my insurance company.
Okay, so there you have. Okay, so this is, as the news broke about 8 hours ago, the FBI has a massive presence outside the home of the alleged D.C. pipe bomber Brian Cole Jr. in Woodbridge, Virginia. Can't wait to hear what the FBI has on him and how they zeroed in on him after all these years. So this is
Paul
some of the
Morrow
video.
arrested for suspected of planting pipe bombs outside of the RNC and DNC headquarters near the U.S. Capitol complex. It's been nearly 5 years ago that this happened. That's about 35 miles outside of D.C. where they are now. And I want to bring in on the phone Paul Morrow, former NYPD inspector attorney.
Okay, so that's just an aerial shot of the news as it was happening. This is apparently a photo of the alleged. This appears to be 33-year-old Brian Cole Jr. from Woodbridge, Virginia, also known as Brian Jerome Cole. The social media page where this photo was originally found has now been taken down. And then, of course, we have this, another photo of Brian Cole Jr. You see what I mean? A lot of people are saying that he is just a patsy in this entire game. His father, Brian Cole Sr., owns an immigration bail bond company. Little Brian lives with his mom and dad. Public records and investigative reporting indicate Cole lives with his immediate family, including his father, Brian Cole Sr., owner of the bail bond company. Immigration bail bond, of all things. Cole Sr. declined to comment to media following the arrest. His mother, Delicia Cole, a real estate agent based in Woodbridge, Virginia, possible siblings. We won't go there. Of course, he and his daddy operated an immigration bail bond company. Pretty sure they won't be able to spin that either. Another deep state operation, occasionally known associated members of Antifa thugs. More of the aerial footage of the raid on the house 5 years later. This
Fox
is
5D helicopter right here. This is a very heavy police presence at the home of the suspect they have identified in the DC pipe bomb probe. So this is a live look from the Fox 5 DC helicopter. As you see in a cul-de-sac, the FBI now at the home of this suspect. And we were learning more earlier as we were hearing from the FBI after they announced that they made an arrest in the nearly 5-year-old investigation into who placed pipe bombs in Washington, D.C. before the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S.
Continuing right along here. Let's go on. Yes, the father, J6 pipe bomber father, reportedly Brian Cole Sr. And judging by his identity, Brian Cole Jr. will likely not fit the narrative the Democrats want to portray, so mainstream media will, of course, bury this story. Time will tell, but Cole Jr. has been described as an anarchist. That's another way of saying Antifa. That also explained why the Biden administration didn't do much to find the J6 pipe bomber. And it makes sense, because if he was, in fact, a member of Antifa, an anarchist, and he was caught, they could not say it was some radical MAGA. So they just ignored it, let it go, and never investigated, because their narrative would have fallen apart. Attorney General Pam Bondi announces that he'd been charged for both of the arrests. Listen.
And early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. I'm going to let our U.S. attorney discuss that shortly. This was the work of multiple agencies working together. This morning's operation was carried out safely and successfully. Early this morning, Brian...
So apparently what they did was there was so much cell phone data that they had to pour through. And with all of that data, they were able to track down the specific types of materials that made up that bomb that were purchased at local hardware stores. And then they cross-referenced all the purchases of the same types of material. They cross-referenced that with all the cell phone data for the same location where the purchases were made, along with the location data of when the individual was in the DC area, and it pinged at the location where the pipe bombs were dropped. And then following that same ping, taking it to his home, and that's apparently how this whole thing came together, which is pretty remarkable. And continuing with more information that we have, announced that he has been arrested. Here's Kash Patel on that.
When you attack American citizens, when you attack our institutions of legislation, when you attack our nation's capital, you attack the very being of our way of life. And this FBI and this Department of Justice stand here to tell you that we will always refute it and combat it. We will provide the safest country the nation has ever seen under President Trump's leadership here. And that's what we did here today with great resolve on a case of massive public importance, as it should be. An individual who is now alleged to have placed multiple explosive devices to blow up multiple people and multiple officials, innocent civilians, is now arrested thanks to the brave men and women of the FBI and the interagency. I want to take a moment to thank the Metropolitan Police Department, the United States Capitol Police, our brave prosecutors, the Department of Justice, and our leader, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro, whose relentless work on this case made this possible. As the Attorney General said, we did not discover any new information. What we did, an investigation spearheaded by the deputy director and the ADIC of our Washington field office, brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, sifted through all the data, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do. As a result of that, we generated numerous investigative leads, executed multiple legal process with our U.S. attorney partners, and came to this conclusion today. And that is why we were able to safely secure this individual into custody. Remember, we are dealing with an individual who is alleged to have made bombs. We cannot do this sort of takedown in haste because it endangers the lives of law enforcement. And this FBI will never allow the lives of law enforcement and our prosecutors to be put in jeopardy.
Lots of information had to be sorted through to track down this individual, as I just explained. Let's see, more charges to come. Here's Tim Pool's take. He says, I too believe it's an inside job. The FBI has arrested a suspect in the January 6th pipe bomb case, but what happened to the female Capitol Police suspect named by Steve Baker of the Blaze, as well as others? Let's listen to Tim's take.
Prior to joining the Fox News says, the lingering mystery led a faction of President Donald Trump's base to raise concerns at the timing of the pipe bomb incidents and security failures surrounding it. Some elevated theories the Biden admin was not forthright to the public about the facts of the case. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino had suggested the planning of the bombs was an inside job prior to joining the Bureau. In May, he told Fox News authorities were closing in on the suspects. I'm going to go ahead and add, I too believe it's an inside job. So this image right here, some people have pointed out, looks like a training device that is typically used by law enforcement as a prop pipe bomb. And here we have an individual with one of these devices. It's very strange. We'll find out, I suppose. We have this report from NBC News. Apparently, they've given more details on the suspect. They say Brian Cole was identified as the suspect in custody, according to two senior law enforcement officials. The arrest marks a breakthrough in the case. They say the arrest happened Thursday morning. A news conference will take place at the DOJ on Thursday to officially announce the arrest, and I hope they give us the full details. Now, they're pointing out, in 2023, the FBI raised the reward for providing information that led to an arrest from $100,000 to $500,000. But many may be wondering, what about this other individual that was named by the Blaze, and Steve Baker as well as others, as being the principal suspect? Actually, you know what I should do is I'll pull up Steve Baker's X account, see if he's got a comment on this one.
He doesn't really.
Stephen Baker. There's too many Steve Bakers. Let's see if I can find his account. Because as many of you are aware, okay, we do have him right here. And let's see if he has a No, he has a statement from yesterday that I'm gonna pull in right now before we read the story from CBS News. He said, in case you're wondering why there's been no action on our series of stories revealing knowledge and complicity by certain Capitol Police actors in the J6 pipe bomb conspiracy, they are being completely steamrolled by the Comey Ray zealots they promoted. Phil Kennedy says, from a current FBI agent, the propaganda is strong, especially for anyone who knows even a little about the FBI. The new leadership team is almost entirely Comey Ray acolytes. The only exceptions are outsiders like Ben Williamson, Marshall Yates, and Dan himself, who have no business being ADs or the DD. They are being completely steamrolled by the Comey and Ray zealots they've promoted. Interesting. And this comes following a statement from Dan Bongino, who says, some updates regarding important changes and reforms. He was going to mention a bunch of reforms and stuff not relevant to the news story at hand, and for which people believe the job isn't getting done. Now, CBS reported this about a week ago, and many people immediately called into question why. These reports came out that identified the pipe bomber as this Capitol Police woman. Now, I said at the time, it's not confirmed, and gait analysis is not the most reliable way to identify a suspect. That being said, I do believe this pipe bomber was female, based on not gait analysis, but watching the way the person walked didn't look too much like a guy. If it did, it's a shorter, frail guy, I guess, with a lot of hip movement. But more importantly, leaning down to place the bombs was done at the hips. And I know, I've said it already, but I stand by that. Doesn't mean I know for sure, and certainly men can do this. So none of it is guaranteed. It just is, I think. If it turns out this guy's actually the person and they release real information, this is massive and will be one of the biggest stories of our generation. Fox News.
And of course, the question is he a lone wolf? Is he a patsy? Is he, was he coordinating with somebody? Scott McMahon writes, Eagle Ed Martin, you have some explaining to do. When the Steve Baker contrived and factually deficient story about gait analysis by anonymous experts in software broke, you were all over it, acting like you were some mysterious Sherlock Holmes who cracked the case in your trench coat. All your homies in the Flynn cult went ballistic, calling you a hero, claiming you, Baker, and Seraphin had done what Trump and Kash had failed to do, and it was all used to incite TDS among Trump's supporters. Now, I did talk about this as well. It was a big story when it broke, and it was the closest thing we had to a lead. And I thought that it was pretty good information. And we were wondering what happened, why the story got buried. Well, maybe, think about it this way. If that story, when it came out, that story put so much pressure on the FBI, because now they have to act, they have to answer, they have to make their case. Because now you have an investigative journalist doing the work that they should be doing. And I'm betting it put an immense amount of pressure on them to actually kickstart that investigation, which brings us to today. Julie Kelly, 10 hours ago, she says, just yesterday, Steve Baker, who wrongly claimed a female police officer set the devices, blamed the FBI for his failure to provide any more meaningful updates to his gait analysis story. And that is the tweet you just heard, the Steve Baker tweet you heard Tim Pool just recite. One thing we know for sure is that this has to be the guy, says Amy R. I mean, the FBI wouldn't arrest an innocent person, right? I feel like this is going to get messy. She still believes Steve Baker has it right. Nick Sortor, the FBI massive presence outside the home of the alleged pipe bomber. Here he is driving up to the scene.
The Caesar squad has confirmed the address. News crews starting to show up. Caesar squad has confirmed.
And you can see that the whole entire street blocked off by police cruisers. Nick Sortor heading to that location to check it out personally. Now, Patrick Abbott writes, for an anarchist accused, January 6th pipe bomber Brian Cole lives in a pretty nice home, But revolution is a rich person's game. Well, to be clear, he lived with his parents. And his parents, bail bondsmen, working to, I guess, free immigration people, lived in this home right here. 9 hours ago, let's take a look here. The way the case was cracked. Johnny St. Pete writes, about 6 weeks ago, was Dan Bongino the lead on it? Patel decided to take the old agents off the case, put a new team on it. John Solomon, Brian Cole's been identified. Let's listen to John Solomon's take.
Now, there was a little resistance. Mentioned, I think it was just before Thanksgiving on your show, I thought there would be an arrest this week. They were zeroing in on a gentleman whom they arrested this morning in Northern Virginia. And the way this case was cracked was about a month or 6 weeks ago. Bongino, who was the lead on it, and Patel decided to take the old agents off the case and put a new team on it. Now, there was a little resistance, as there always is in the FBI, to any form of change. But the new team came in. They applied some new ideas, some new technologies, and some of the evidence that was sitting right in front of them with fresh eyes was followed, and it was able to be led to this gentleman who they arrested a little bit ago. We don't know much about his ideology or his intentions or his motives yet. And one of the things that FBI officials stressed with me this morning is that this is really the beginning. The arrest is the beginning of trying to understand how this operation was conducted, who's behind it, whether there are more conspirators or whether this is a lone wolf. Still all of that to be determined, but a really extraordinary effort. Almost 5 years later, with a fresh set of eyes and a different approach, the FBI that couldn't solve the case for 4.5 years solves it. Very much like the way the Charlie Kirk investigation occurred in the first few hours. There were a lot of FBI agents in old guard that didn't want to put the suspect's photo out, but Kash, Patel, and Bongino insisted that was going to be key to getting the father to flip. And they put the photo out, the father flips, and of course you get that arrest as we see. What you're seeing is a different mentality in the FBI, and that plays out in two different ways. First, you see successes that we haven't seen in a while, lots of arrests, cases solved that had not been solved for a long time, other cases which could have gone on for months being solved in 33 hours like Charlie Kirk's assassin. The second part is it results in a lot of whining from FBI people who think they know what's better. And you see that even in the Miranda Devine story earlier this week. You've got these grousers and grouchers because the truth of the matter is Donald Trump ordered Patel and Bongino to break glass at the FBI. They broke glass. And now the FBI is doing things differently. They're succeeding, but there are people who want to focus on the whining and crying, not actually the success of what the FBI has been doing. The way they solved this case was fresh thinking.
Here's what kind of strange credulity. In 5.5 years, and Dan comes in with Kash, but Dan finally gets tired of it, puts on a new team. Yep. And I understand it's a fresh set of eyes, a different perspective, but it doesn't strain credulity to think that the original FBI team was really, and this is the problem with all of J6, were they part of the problem? Because, to say that Bongino and these guys came in and in 6 weeks cracked the case is fantastic. But you sit there and go, particularly you see a lot of these former whistleblowers of people trashing Kash every day. Yeah. Is the building just still adamantly opposed to Kash, Bongino, and President Trump?
Fewer and fewer people are opposed. There are even people that were opposed at the beginning, like this guy's just a talking head. He's not an FBI agent. And then you start solving cases, and people are like, oh, damn, hey, this is working. We're getting bad guys off the street. So there are 2 or 3 dynamics going on in the Bureau. The first is there are people that are still the deep state, and as Kash Patel and Dan Bongino find them, they throw them out, or they twist them in a way that they're required to show us what the deep state did the last 6 or 8 years that we didn't know about. Early on, there was some question, why was Kash Patel keeping certain people behind? Because those people wanted to keep their pension, and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino wanted to know what really went on, and they squeezed those people to find out what the dirty secrets were that existed from the Wray and Comey era, and that's how they found the burn bags, and they found all that stuff. So you have resistance. That resistance is growing less. The resistors now move to the outside. This report that, I think Miranda writes in the New York Post, it's an anonymous whistleblower report. It's kind of weird to have a study that doesn't have any names to it. But a lot of those people are gone, and they're grousing from the outside.
Brian Cole, a suspect arrested in connection with the pipe bomb J6 investigation, lists a very particular and peculiar set of skills on his LinkedIn profile. Skip tracing, fraud, private investigations, security management, physical security, surveillance, security operations, 30 bonds, criminal law, background checks, internal investigations, enforcement investigation, executive protection. Sounds like a typical list and skill set that you might find for somebody in the bail bond family. So the information is all coming out now. So here's the problem, okay, and the bottom line. Either Steve Baker at Blaze Media got it catastrophically wrong and a female Capitol Police officer was falsely accused, or the FBI just arrested a patsy to bury the real story before it exploded. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel say they cracked this case by simply re-examining old evidence. But the timing, weeks after Baker's bombshell, has skeptics asking some hard questions. The MAGA insurrection narrative is bleeding out either way. The only question is whether justice was actually served or whether we just watched the cover-up enter an entirely new phase. Now, the story is far from over. For 5 years, the pipe bomber was used to justify a war on the American people. Then Steve Baker named a Capitol Police officer as the suspect. Now the FBI arrests someone else entirely, an anarchist, Antifa, from the suburbs, and expects you to close the books. Some are celebrating, others are screaming patsy. So here's what we know for certain. The evidence didn't change. Only the people looking at it did. Brian Cole Jr. may be guilty, or he may be the fall guy designed to protect someone far more connected. The next few weeks will tell us which. But one thing is clear, the January 6th narrative the regime built its power on is crumbling, and they're desperate to control how it falls. My question for you, do you believe that Brian Cole Jr. is the real J6 pipe bomber? Yes or no? Sound off in the comments. You can gear up. Also, at the Next News merch shop, you'll find it linked in the description. Curious, huh? Interesting story. And we have some super chats here that came in. One from James Fay. Hello, N3 Patriots. And, oh boy. $2 from James. Thank you. Curio with the dad jokes. Here we go. $4.99. I swallowed a bunch of synonyms yesterday. Gave me thesaurus throat I ever had. Had to take some antonyms. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The dad jokes. Well, we're on our way to hitting our goal tonight of $100. I know we can do it. And you guys always help us hit that. And before we do, we're going to get into some of the wild stuff that was posted by President Trump. And everyone's talking about it right now. Even Jimmy Kimmel. And what do you guys think about the new background? You like it? You like it? It's nice. What about my new glasses? You like the glasses? Yeah, new glasses. Okay, anyway, enough about me. Let's go. We've been covering the Autopen scandal, and tonight it just detonated to a whole new level. President Trump went on a late-night Truth Social rampage, firing off over 160 posts in just 5 hours. Of course, the media is calling him unhinged, but buried in that barrage was something that has Washington freaking out, especially the Obama family. Trump reposted content from Alex Jones featuring Patrick Byrne, who is now claiming that Michelle Obama herself may have actually used Joe Biden's Autopen to push through last-minute pardons. The paper presidency just got a new name attached to it. And here's why this matters, because we've already reported on Trump declaring all Autopen signed documents null and void. He's called Biden's administration a hologram presidency run by handlers with a robot pen. But now the accusation has a specific target, Michelle Obama. The claim, the former First Lady may have been the one physically operating the Autopen in the final days to sign pardons for the regime's inner circle. Now, there is no public proof of this. It is an allegation, but Donald Trump signal boosted it to millions, and that turned a theory into a political grenade. And the corporate media immediately attacking, calling Trump a lunatic, saying he's spiraling. But his supporters see something else. A president willing to name names and expose what they believe was a shadow government operating behind a mentally diminished figurehead. The legal battle over whether the Autopen pardons are valid will rage on, but politically, the Obamas just got dragged into the center of this firestorm. And while the political class tries to hide their decline behind robot signatures and handlers, the rest of us have to actually take care of ourselves. In a recent clinical trial, women who took 2.5 grams of collagen peptides daily for 8 weeks saw a 25% reduction in eye wrinkle depth, a 9% improvement in skin elasticity, and a 29% boost in hydration. That's why I use BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen. It supercharges skin health using 5 premium types. Now, I've noticed smoother skin, more elasticity, and a youthful glow. I mean, look at my face. Plus, supports joint health and bone strength. Grab a bag at 51% off at healthwithgary.com. You'll get free VIP coaching, a free ebook, a 60-day guarantee, and free shipping. Go to healthwithgary.com to get yours. But here's what makes this story even bigger. You see, this is not just Trump ranting into the void. Diamond and Silk picked it up. Eric Daugherty blasted it out. Accounts across the platform are now repeating the same phrase. Trump suggests Michelle Obama was caught using Joe Biden's Autopen. Meanwhile, the House Oversight Committee dropped its own bomb with Representative James Comer, stating that there were never any meetings scheduled for Biden to review pardon applicants. His staff hid his decline, blocked access, and used the Autopen even after Merrick Garland's own DOJ said not to do it. So the question is no longer just whether Biden was signing his own documents. The question is who was signing them for him and what did they get in return? On your screen, you can see the post that was made by President Trump. Wild. Michelle Obama may have used Biden's Autopen in the final days of his disastrous administration to pardon key individuals, Patrick Byrne reveals. Now, this is the Truth Social post. You can clearly see that President Trump took a screenshot of the post and then shared it on Truth Social, not unlike when the president has done similar things with posts that I have made. If you remember the Chipocalypse meme that I made, Chipocalypse Now, or even the YouTube victory when he won $25 million from YouTube, things of that nature. So this is how President Trump reshares some of these things. And before we get into that, this is the actual post from Alex Jones that was posted. As you can see, same text, but there was video attached. Now, President Trump did not include that video in his Truth Social post. So let's listen in detail. Now, think about it this way. President Trump screenshots the post, shares the header, and that's it. The only way for President Trump to do that is if he were to actually watch this video here and essentially agree with it to start the narrative. And now the narrative is exploding all over the web. Let's listen.
In the last days, they're now turning on their former bosses, which shows they know they're done. I mean, explain how big a deal that is to have their top people, because it's not just, they've already gone to the White House. Then when the White House says, well, then go show us. If we were to trust you, go public. They're now going public. So explain what happened last week.
Well, networks, a general rule is networks under pressure break down. They start breaking down, people turn on each other. So just by keeping the pressure on over a long time, it's breaking down. People are off trying to make their own deals. People are not, roll early, roll often. When you're in a mafia like this, you want to be one of the first guys to roll. It doesn't do you any good to wait till other people have given up the information. But yeah, they recently came out, Michelle Obama, in the last days of Biden, Michelle Obama went in and used the Autopen. I think there were 4 or 5 pardons she gave. And then you'd love to see, who knows if they charged $1 million a pardon, who knows how that's so illegal. That is so illegal. But they've gotten away with murder for 17 years. There's no rule of law on all these crazy scandals that you've talked. There's no rule of law.
I watch body language. I've seen Obama in the few interviews he's done. He is a stuttering idiot. He is scared. All of his bravado is gone.
Well, for the first time in life, he hasn't got a bunch of people carrying him, and he's turned gray. I mean, he just looks terrible. I'm sorry to see that. I don't want him ill health. But he overthrew the country, and I'm saying that as a guy who worked for him. I was a national intelligence asset directly under his pen. And I'm telling you this all, he tried to overthrow the United States government. It all started Thanksgiving of 2015. It's when it really all, at the very least, it really all started then.
All right, stay there. Let's go to Venezuela.
So there you have it. That's the post that President Trump witnessed himself with his own eyes and decided to share it with the world. Now, continuing to some of the reaction, of course, as we covered this yesterday, President Trump canceling all executive orders and anything else that was not directly signed by crooked Joe Biden because the people who operated the Autopen did so illegally. And we have some more. This, again, it's all over. Trump says Michelle Obama was caught using Joe Biden's Autopen, articles everywhere. All Biden pardons canceled because Michelle Obama used Biden's Autopen. Mexico will pay for the wall. Grocery prices are down. We cut drug prices 1,500%. And of course, they're calling it dementia. This guy, Tom Stark. Continuing right on. Here's Patricia. Who used the Autopen? Was it Michelle Obama? Danny K. Politics. Trump reposts Alex Jones' claim that Michelle Obama may have used the Autopen in final days, prompting social media concerns about the president's mental health. But of course, nobody wanted to talk about Joe Biden's mental health for his entire administration. Trump makes a couple posts on Truth Social, and it's certainly all called into question. Even Jimmy Kimmel decided to break down Trump's latest Truth Social rant, which included 160 posts sent in just 5 hours. We'll dig a little bit deeper into this. We won't play the clip. However, let's see. Another day, another barrage. This is what they write. This is from Mashable. Another day, another barrage of Truth Social posts from the president, but this time even Jimmy Kimmel was shocked by the sheer volume. He says, it was snowing in Washington today, and there was a blizzard last night, an avalanche of angry posts on Truth Social from guess who, says Kimmel. Our president, and I know I've said this before, but for real this time, he went completely off the rails. The man who's allegedly running the country banged out an onslaught of posts and reposts in a furious social media blitzkrieg that started at 7:09 p.m., went nonstop until almost midnight. From 7 to 12, he posted 160 times. It's an average of every 2 minutes for 5 hours straight. Yeah, well, if you were President Trump and you were constantly attacked by the media, you were dragged into court, and you had to get a mugshot, I think you would be just as pissed, right? Especially if you knew for a fact that the Autopen was running the country, and then you find out that Michelle Obama may have had a hand in it. Now, we all know the story that Barack Obama said, if I had a third term, I'd love to have a little earpiece in the guy's ear, and I'd whisper in his ear, and I'd tell him what to do. That's basically what that entire presidency was. Remember, Barack Obama never left Washington, D.C. He set up an office in a home where he continued his operations. So it's really not a far stretch to consider that Michelle Obama actually may have had a hand in that. Now, I think we would have to check on all of the logs to see if Michelle Obama actually went to the White House, when she went to the White House. Or, I mean, that would give you substantial proof from the White House logs. However, she could have given orders from outside. She could have used a whisper network to facilitate the orders that perhaps came from Barack Obama himself. So there's still a lot of questions here. Of course, these are claims that are made by Patrick Byrne, but there still needs to be more deeper investigation. And of course, with President Trump amplifying it, the investigation is happening. I mean, the internet is doing its thing. Even People magazine talking about it. Trump fires off with 160 post late night Truth Social spree, covering everything from Christmas to Michelle Obama. Megaphone News England. In a new record for rant binges, U.S. President Trump unleashes 160 posts on Truth Social Monday night between 7:09 and 11:57 p.m., sometimes with barely a minute between them. The posts range from attacks on his political opponents to self-praise and misinformation. Yeah, that's what they like to call it. Diamond and Silk even weighing in. Trump suggests Michelle Obama was caught using Joe Biden's Autopen. Megyn Kelly calling out Michelle Obama for not liking America or Barack and for being narcissistic and racist. Kelly condemns Michelle for blaming all her problems on white people and thinking we care about her hair. Get over yourself, Michelle.
She's really obsessed with, has there ever been a more racist first lady? She's a racist. That's what we've learned about Michelle Obama. It was a slow reveal. Like, we started to learn, first we found out she doesn't like America. Then we found out on her show she doesn't like her husband, at all. Then we started to find out she's really obsessed with herself. She's somewhat narcissistic. And then we found out she's a racist. She really can't stand white people. Every problem in her life is as a result of some white person who she imagines is judging her. Like, we're actually spending time thinking about whether her hair is curly or straight. I have news for you, Michelle. On behalf of all whites, we have better things to do. So get over yourself. Has there ever been
Get
a more
over
racist
yourself.
person?
Well, apparently she didn't, and was apparently or allegedly sending orders. Silent Orbit writes, I just wondered what would happen if Melania Trump spoke about black folks the way Michelle Obama speaks about white folks. Here's a clip.
Well, it's like a lot of people want to know, well, what do braids mean? What does she mean? Look, y'all. What does she mean? That's how white folks are. It's like, what does that mean? What are you saying? We're saying nothing except I just don't want to have to do my hair every day. And I want to go swimming. I don't want to have to worry about it. Let me explain something to white people. Our hair comes out of our head naturally in a curly pattern. So when we're straightening it to follow your beauty standards, we are trapped by the straightness. That's why so many of us can't swim. And we run away from the water. People won't go to the gym because we're trying to keep our hair straight for y'all. It is exhausting and it's so expensive and it takes up so much time. It's like a lot of people want to know, well, what do braids?
Oh, well, unbelievable. Moving right along here. President Trump posting, Michelle Obama may have used the Autopen. But going deeper into the actual Autopen, kind of rehashing some of the backstory here, that Adam Schiff, Mark Milley, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the J6 committee, all of these pardons are now null and void, according to the president. Listen.
Who operated the... I'm going to read you exactly what he posted. He said, quote, any document signed by Sleepy Joe Biden with the Autopen, which was approximately 92% of them, is hereby terminated and of no further force or effect. He says the Autopen is not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given by the President of the United States. He also says in that post, quote, I am hereby canceling all executive orders and anything else that was not directly signed by crooked Joe Biden because the people who operated the Autopen did so illegally. He goes on to say in that post, Joe Biden was not involved in the Autopen process, and if he says he was, he'll be brought up on charges of perjury. He says, thank you for your attention to this matter. Of course, this was just...
Thank you for your attention to this matter. Shifting to James Comer, who is at the head of this investigation.
Scheduled. Not only did we depose the Biden inner circle, we also got the calendar, the emails. There were never any meetings scheduled for President Biden to review the pardon applicants. There was never a press conference by Joe Biden to explain what the executive order was or who he pardoned and why. There was no evidence that Joe Biden was involved. And what we did find was that this inner circle shielded President Biden, not only from the American people, but from his own administration. So it's about the cognitive decline of Joe Biden, the fact that his inner circle covered it up, and there was no evidence that he was involved in the decision-making process, and thus that's why they used the Autopen so many times on legal documents, even when Merrick Garland's Department of Justice told them not to.
So let me tell you what just happened. The President of the United States reposted a claim that the former First Lady was operating the machinery of government behind a senile puppet. Legal experts say that Trump cannot actually void these pardons by decree. The courts will likely uphold them, but that's not the point. The point is that millions of Americans now have Michelle Obama's name fused to the Autopen scandal in their mind. The paper presidency narrative just became the Obama presidency narrative. And no amount of media damage control can put that genie back in the bottle. So this is what happens when you run a government through handlers and hope that nobody notices. For 4 years, we watched Joe Biden shuffle through events, lose his train of thought, and disappear for days at a time. Now we're learning that a robot pen was signing documents in his name, possibly without him even being in the room. And tonight, the accusation is that Michelle Obama herself may have been pulling the strings on last-minute pardons. True or not, the political damage is done. Trump has framed Biden's entire tenure as illegitimate, a paper president run by the Obamas and their allies, while America was told to ignore what they saw with their own eyes. The media will scream conspiracy. The lawyers will argue validity. But the American people are asking a simple question. Who was really running the country? Now, my question for you, do you believe Barack and Michelle Obama dictated the use of the Autopen? Yes or no? Drop your answers in the comments, and you can show support for this show, and you can get your own Autopen shirt right there. You see it? President Autopen. You got to see it. It's there in the merch shop. Get one and support the show. Okay, we got another super chat coming in hot from Curio. Oh my, every time this guy sends a super chat, it's always the worst dad jokes ever. But you know the rules. You send in the money and I dance, all right? But if you send in enough money, I'll do the Trump dance. But that's at another level. You guys got to figure that out. Talk about it in the chat. Listening to a story where they describe children as juvenile mass chaos generators sounds like the members of the DNC. Rawr. Okay. All right. Sure. There you go. There it is. I read it for you. Okay, we're going to get back to some new breaking news. There's some folks who are getting pretty triggered right now. And it's quite interesting. Who's getting triggered? Well, you're going to find out in a moment. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is on camera begging people to stop driving past his house and yelling slurs at him. Yes, they're calling him retarded. He says he's scared. He says he knows how these things go. They start with taunts. This, of course, from the man who spent years calling his political opponents fascists and threats to our republic. Threats to democracy. But while Walz plays victim over mean words, his state is burning. ICE is raiding Minneapolis. Billion-dollar fraud networks are being exposed. And tonight, Mike Lindell just filed to run for governor. That's right, the Pillow Man is coming for Walz's job. Now, here's the bigger picture. Tim Walz does not want you focused on what's actually happening in Minnesota. He wants the story to be buried, right? He wants the story to be about his hurt feelings and the bad language, right? But the people of Minnesota, they're watching something far more serious, a billion-dollar fraud ecosystem on his watch, including over 250 million Somali-linked pandemic food fraud. Federal raids on autism clinics accused of overdiagnosing kids for cash, ICE going door-to-door in Minneapolis, hauling out criminal illegals with rap sheets over a mile long, over a third of commercial driver's licenses in that state allegedly fraudulent, and a congressional investigation into Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison for allowing widespread fraud to occur. And now federal officials threatening to pull tens of millions in funding if Minnesota does not comply within 30 days. That's the real story. You see, Walz is crying about people calling him names. That's just a distraction, and Mike Lindell just called his bluff by filing to make the 2026 governor's race a referendum on it all. And as we wrap up 2025, it's a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. If there's one thing we've learned, it's that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world that we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal is not a plan. That's a gamble. And for over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments, they've helped Americans protect themselves by diversifying their wealth with gold and silver. Remember, nobody knows what 2026 will bring, but there is one thing that is for sure. In an uncertain world, real wealth isn't digital. It's physical, it's lasting, and it's yours. So before the year ends, visit nextnewsgold.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's nextnewsgold.com. Do not leave your future to chance. You can also call that number on the screen, 877-646-5347, and ask them how you can get the 10 1-ounce silver holiday coins with qualified accounts. And of course, the hits keep on coming. Stephen Miller went on record saying America built this entire country over 250 years without Somali refugees, calling it a testament to American skill. Trump himself said Somalians have taken billions out of this country and should be out of here, directly calling out Ilhan Omar and the fraud that she allegedly enabled. Meanwhile, a Minneapolis city council member compared ICE to 1930s Germany. Ron DeSantis firing back, asking why somebody would immigrate to a country they hold in such contempt. And ICE is posting mugshots from Operation Metro Surge, gang members, domestic abusers, repeat DUI offenders, all Somali illegals yanked off Minneapolis streets just this week. And as you can see on your screen, there is Franklin the Turtle. Yes, he's become quite a fixture these days. And what do his blocks say? RETARDED. Retarded. Apparently that's a word that's a naughty word now. It does have an actual meaning. But Tim Walz is fuming over it. The same guy who called you a fascist and a Nazi over and over and over again is getting triggered. Why? Listen.
In front of. Are you okay with the president calling our neighbors garbage? Are you okay with him referring to Minnesota as a hellhole, unfactually untrue? This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So deeply concerned. Are you okay with the president?
Stuttering fool. He is so concerned about President Trump and people driving by his house. Again, this is all deflection. His own house is burning down. And he can't stand that people are using the R word in front of it, right? Meet Faisal Mohammed Omar, a criminal illegal from Somalia, charged with 2 counts of domestic violence. Thankfully, ICE got his ass off the streets of Minneapolis during Operation Metro Surge this week. Meet Hamed Mohammed Saeed, a criminal illegal from Somalia. He has convictions for domestic violence, 2. 3 DUIs, assault, damaging property, and violating probation. Thankfully, ICE got his ass off the streets of Minneapolis during Operation Metro Surge. That's quite a mugshot. And here, meet Abdullah Kadir Sharif Abdi, a criminal illegal from Somalia. He's a Vice Lords member, former Gangster Disciples member, has a long list of criminal convictions. Thankfully, ICE got his ass off the streets of Minneapolis during Operation Metro Surge this week. And of course, breaking news, Mike Lindell filing to run for Minnesota governor, challenging Tim Walz. Well, finally, the people of Minnesota can sleep soundly at night, knowing that the pillow guy is going to tuck them in. Let's go, Mike Lindell. You got my vote, buddy. Oh, and we have this. This was 48 hours ago, FBI agents walking out with boxes of evidence, one of 2 facilities raided in Minnesota. Court documents show dozens of defendants received involved in a $250 million scheme to overprescribe autism in Somali children. Tim Walz ignored this. Him and Ilhan Omar are going down. But of course, he wants to complain about being called a retard.
Charging Medicaid. It's a familiar sight in Minnesota. This exclusive video shows FBI agents walking out with boxes of evidence.
And that is absolutely something that our community cannot sustain.
One of 2 facilities raided on Thursday. Star Autism Center's office in St. Cloud and Smart Therapy Center in Minneapolis. Familiar because this is what it looked like when agents raided homes connected to the largest pandemic fraud case in the country. And new court documents show at least a dozen of the defendants charged for their role in the Feeding Our Future scheme owned, received money from, or were associated with autism clinics. In this case, the alleged scheme boils down to charging Medicaid millions for care they didn't actually provide. Wow. Since 2017, Medicaid reimbursement claims in Minnesota skyrocketed from just under $2 million to more than $250 million.
Insurance is driving what providers are providing as opposed to what patients need.
A major fear of Ellie Wilson, the executive director of Autism Society of Minnesota. According to the search warrant, many of the kids receiving autism services at Smart Therapy did not appear to be autistic. The warrant alleges Smart Therapy hired young relatives who had no formal education and who were usually just on their phones all day. It's a familiar
massive fraud scheme unfolding in Minnesota on Tim Walz's watch. Consequences. 10 hours ago, over 1/3 of all CDL licenses in Minnesota are illegal. Secretary Duffy is giving Minnesota 30 days to comply, or $30 million in federal funding will be frozen. That's what's going on in Minnesota. The entire state is littered with fraud. The walls of justice are closing in on retarded Tim Walz.
Threatens to withhold.
Tonight, we've learned the Minnesota Department of Vehicle Services has paused issuing certain commercial driver's licenses. And it comes after federal officials say a review found 1/3 of CDLs in the state were issued illegally to people who should not be behind the wheel.
U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is giving Minnesota 30 days to revoke problematic licenses and threatens to withhold $30 million in federal funding. Jim Mason has reaction from the state and the trucking industry.
Interstate Truck Driving School in West St. Paul.
Mirror, you're turning, now you want it to go back straight.
Trains the next generation of truckers to hit the road.
We focus on safety. That's our number one priority.
Campus Director Bill Collins knows his industry is making headlines. Do these allegations surprise you?
There's been fraud in our industry for decades. So it's nothing new to me that there's allegations of fraud. It's nothing new to me that there's unsafe drivers out there.
Federal officials threatened to withhold more than $30 million in federal highway funding after finding issues with commercial driver's licenses.
What we found is there have been states that have issued commercial driver's license to foreigners, and they've gone through sham schools, and they're not safe on American roadways.
U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says 1/3 of commercial driver's licenses in Minnesota were issued illegally due to an invalid work permit or the state never verified a driver's immigration status.
Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota gave 33% of these licenses unlawfully. People that should never have a driver's license driving a big rig on American roads, endangering the American people. Shameful.
Governor Walz fired back.
As far as the DOT on commercial driver's licenses, we follow the laws we always have. No different than any other state. We've been notified of it. We looked at it. My statement on this is we are following the law exactly as it's written, exactly as we implemented it for decades.
Tonight, we've learned
he looks guilty as hell there. Guilty as hell. Oh, but who could ever forget this moment?
One has the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, said, no one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core. Let that sink in and don't be a damn bit afraid of saying it, because that's exactly who he is. The former chairman.
Don't be afraid to say it. The F word, right? But you're afraid of the R word. Representative Tom Emmer. 80% of the crimes being committed in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, committed by Somalis.
A truth occurred. I'm just grateful that you're reporting it. And the reason that it's getting reported is because Donald Trump, President Trump, finally made this a national issue when he sent out a truth a couple weeks ago. We've been trying to sound the alarm in Minnesota for more than 3 years. Everybody's focused right now on $1 billion plus in fraud that has been stolen from Minnesota taxpayers, and a lot of it allegedly has been sent to al-Shabaab back in Somalia, a terrorist group. But you know what we're not talking about today? Do you realize that, it's not that all Somalis are committing crimes, but 80% of the crimes being committed in the Twin Cities in Minnesota are being committed by Somalis. And by the way, the FBI has been investigating Somali gangs in the Twin Cities now for months. I am grateful that President Trump has raised this to a national issue. This is it's kind of like a small version of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were doing at our southern border for the last 4 years. Tim Walz is as corrupt as and incompetent as the day is long. You got $1 billion of fraud. You got the largest fraud case pandemic fraud case in the country. I'm just grateful that you're
the largest fraud case in the country. Yeah. As Minnesota faces a $3 billion deficit and has lost at least $1 billion to fraud, Tim Walz claims the only thing that's hurting his state is Donald Trump.
I tell our Somali neighbors, I tell our Hmong neighbors, I tell all of our neighbors in Minnesota, you're respected, you're valued. We're proud of this state that ranks near the top in almost every single category. And I will tell you the only
ranks in the top in fraud.
only thing that's hurting this state, as he so falsely claimed to a group of people, is Donald Trump himself. I tell our
I blame Trump. Yeah, and here's more from that retarded thing he's freaking out about.
I'd never seen true. This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So
we kind of agree with him, though. That's the problem. That's why no one's going to disavow it, buddy. Because we all know you're a freaking retard. Franklin finds fraud in Minnesota. Franklin. Tim Walz's record is wild. Remember when he did this? He swaps the Minnesota flag to look like Somalia's flag. Then a Somalia network steals $1 billion on his watch, and somehow there's no accountability. Remember this moment?
All right, ready. Whoa, wait a minute.
Look at that. Just look at that. The same colors as the Somali flag.
There, that's better. All right, ready. Whoa,
I mean, if there's ever an indication that Minnesota has fallen, it's this very moment right here. I mean, look it up. Look up what the Somali flag looks like. All right? It's basically that dark blue with the star in the middle. The star is slightly different. It's not a two-tone flag like you see there. But the colors are the same. The stylization is the same. And there you have it. I mean, that is the 100% indication that Minnesota has completely fallen. And Tim Walz sits there with a smile on his face as the billions go out the door, as the crime continues to flow. Tim Walz under federal investigation. It's official. Listen.
Terror group linked to Al-Qaeda. Justice Department says it will take a look. National correspondent Jeff Paul has details.
They're calling for an investigation. 4 Minnesota Congress members addressing the state's U.S. attorney, demanding answers after a report claimed taxpayer dollars were ending up in the hands of Somali terror group al-Shabaab.
If you're paying taxes for services you expect and things you expect your state government to provide, those taxes should not be going to a terrorist group in a foreign country.
House Majority Whip Tom Emmer is referencing this article written by urban policy magazine City Journal, which is published by a conservative think tank, the Manhattan Institute. Citing unnamed sources, the report alleges funding that was supposed to go to state programs to help with housing and feeding people was being stolen. Without specifying an amount, the article claims some of that money was then sent to Somalia through a complex network where it eventually ends up aiding the al-Qaeda-linked terror group.
This is a huge black eye to the nonprofit community. There was lack of oversight. There's criminal intent.
Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar spoke at the state's capitol yesterday with other state leaders. She didn't directly mention the allegations of the report, but responded to Trump's announcement last week that he was terminating temporary protected status for Somalis in the state. Trump writing that Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of Minnesota.
There is not a single evidence that the president or his coonies have put forth that there are any single resource from taxpayers in Minnesota that has gone to aid and abet terrorism. That language is dangerous.
We reached out to the Justice Department about the allegations. A DOJ official tells us the department takes fraud of any kind extremely seriously, and this referral will be thoroughly investigated.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Minnesota as a hellhole, unfactually untrue. This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on...
Yeah, tell you what. I'll tell you what Tim Walz doesn't want you to see. He changed Minnesota's flag to look like Somalia's. A Somali network then looted over $1 million through combined welfare and pandemic fraud schemes on his watch. Ilhan Omar begging for leniency for Somalis who tried to join ISIS. Keith Ellison allegedly met with fraudsters who offered campaign cash. And now Walz stands in front of cameras crying that people are being mean to him. Mike Lindell just looked at that wreckage and said, I'll do it myself. The 2026 race is now a referendum on whether Minnesota survives or becomes a permanent fraud sanctuary. Now, Tim Walz wanted the story to be about language. He wanted to play the victim, clutch his pearls, and lecture everyone about civility. But you cannot lecture the country about tone when your state is ground zero for the largest pandemic fraud scheme in American history. You can't cry about mean words when ICE is pulling gang members and domestic abusers off your streets, because you wouldn't. You cannot demand rhetorical safe space when you spent years calling half the country fascists. Mike Lindell sees the opening. He's not a polished politician. He's a pillow salesman who built a company from nothing. And he just told Minnesota that if this is what leadership looks like, he'll do the job himself. So the question for Minnesotans is simple. Do you want a governor who cries about insults, or one who will tuck you in at night with a nice soft pillow? Is Tim Walz a victim or a fraud enabler? Let's have a conversation about this in the comments, and you can grab your gear at the Next News merch shop. You'll find it linked in the description. Okay. Salty Nationalist is weighing in $10. Just to be clear, the person who was arrested is a patsy, covering for the female DC cop who transferred to the CIA. We can't have corruption in the CIA, can we? Of course we can. And then Robert Malloy dropping $9.99. Gary, you're the best. And Tim Walz is mentally tarred. Yeah, I agree. And now we have this just in, some new declassified footage. And we have more information coming through. Let's see. The drug traffickers. Where is this? There was, let's see, 14, 120, 59. Where is Todd? If you're there. Yes. Is this the one? Okay, ABC. That's what I was looking for. Okay. All right. Let's get this next show on the road. So we've been tracking the Democrats' attempt to paint President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth as war criminals over strikes on Venezuelan drug boats. They called it a massacre of innocent fishermen. They invoked the Geneva Convention. They demanded investigations, and tonight it all just blew up in their faces. ABC aired drone footage, Alex Jones dropping a global exclusive, and what we now know is that those so-called helpless survivors, they climbed back into the burning boat to salvage the cocaine. The war crimes hoax just sank to the bottom of the Caribbean. And here's what's at stake. You see, Democrats and corporate media spent days pushing the narrative that Trump and Hegseth ordered illegal double-tap strikes on defenseless people in the water. They said the survivors were in clear distress. They cited the Pentagon Law of War Manual. They even got Admiral Alvin Hoseley to resign after he allegedly raised concerns about legality. This was supposed to be about the silver bullet that would stop Trump's narco-terror offensive cold. Calls for Nuremberg-style prosecution were circulating. But then the actual footage came out. ABC reported that the drone cameras captured after the first strike, the so-called victims climbed back into the wreckage and tried to salvage the drugs. They were not helpless castaways. They were narco traffickers continuing their mission. And under the rules of engagement, that makes them legitimate targets. The entire war crimes narrative just collapsed. Right? Just collapsed. And the people who pushed it are freaking out. And while politicians play games with national security, real Americans are dealing with real problems, including taking care of their health. In a recent clinical trial, women who took 2.5 grams of collagen peptides daily for 8 weeks saw 25% reduction in eye wrinkle depth and 29% boost in hydration. This is why I use BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen. It supercharges skin health using 5 premium collagen types. I've noticed smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer fine lines, plus it supports joint health and bone strength. Grab a bag for 51% off at healthwithgary.com. You'll also get free VIP coaching, a free ebook, a 60-day guarantee, and free shipping. That's healthwithgary.com. Hit it up and take care of yourself. So it gets worse for the Democrats. Alex Jones aired what he called a global exclusive, walking through the Pentagon drone footage frame by frame and declaring the Hegseth war crimes hoax collapsed like a house of cards. Jesse Waters lit up primetime saying ABC just blew up the double tap hoax like a Coke boat. Stephen Miller twisted the knife, saying this is the first time a major political party has sided with narco trafficking, murdering terrorist scum. Think about that. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, she fired back that if this footage shocks you, go walk Skid Row or inner city Chicago and see what 100,000 overdose deaths a year actually looks like. Trump himself said that every boat destroyed saves 25,000 American lives, and sea smuggling is down 91%. Here's Jesse Waters' post. ABC just blew up the Democrats' double tap hoax like a Coke boat. The 2 Coke boat survivors climbed back into the boat after the strike and tried to salvage the drugs, completely shattering the narrative. Watch.
New information tonight.
So this is Fox News airing the ABC report.
Tonight, new information. According to a source familiar with the incident, the two survivors climbed back onto the boat after the initial strike. They were believed to be potentially in communication with others and salvaging some of the drugs. Because of that, it was determined they were still in the fight and valid targets. A JAG officer was also giving legal advice.
This backs up the entire second strike.
Yes, I mean, it just doesn't get more crystal clear than that. The mission is take out the boat, stop the drugs, keep this vessel and its cargo from reaching our shore using lethal means. And our amazing military, the heroes of the United States Armed Forces, did exactly that. President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, and this entire government are committed to finally using our military to defend our people, our borders, our family, our culture, our history, our heritage, to defend the United States. We're not going off running around the Middle East trying to build democracies in caves and deserts and in distant sands that have never known democracy. We're using the military to protect American security, American prosperity, American lives right here where we live, where our children live.
Tonight, new...
Yes. And we have this just 2 hours ago. U.S. military has just eviscerated another narco-terrorist boat full of drugs headed to America. Look at this video. Look at that. That's like 4K, baby. Look at it. There it is. Look at all those drugs. Kaboom! Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Party's over, guys. And there goes the cocaine to the bottom of the sea. To Davy Jones' locker. And just like that, Alex Jones writes 12 hours ago, the Hegseth committed war crimes hoax collapses like a house of cards.
Salvaging some of the drugs. Because of that, it was
in distant sand.
Global exclusive Pentagon drone footage answers the question, did Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth commit international war crimes by ordering a Hellfire missile double tap on a narco-terrorist boat?
Lots of guys. No box. Coming out of the hole.
Yeah, direct hits right there.
Good. Offset to the howitzer.
Guy moving.
Got him. Lots of guys. No box. Coming out of the hole.
Run out of there. All right, got three.
There, you got it. Hey, Dirty.
So what you're seeing there is that's an Afghanistan airstrike that was used as an example. I think this is the footage here.
Destroying enemy fighters during the global war on terror. Warning, there's a lot of double.
Some of this footage we just can't show. It's just too hot for YouTube. But Democrats can't identify a woman, a criminal, a peaceful protest, dementia, or which bathroom to use, but they sure can identify a fishing boat when they see one. Yeah, does that look like a fishing boat to you? Yeah, what do you think are in those big blue tanks? Do those look like just simple fishermen? I don't think so. What's up here? Oh, just some more fish food, I guess. Well, pretty soon they're all going to be fish food, right? Representative Anna Paulina Luna, if you think the footage of drug trafficking boats gets blown out of the water is shocking, go to Chicago or Skid Row.
Which is, for any of these people, I don't care if they're Democrats or not, but are they super critical of President Obama when he did the same thing? The fact is that for the most part, to my knowledge, since I've really been alive, which has been, for 36 years, there's been many presidents who have used this authority and it hasn't been a big deal. I do understand, though, that it might be shocking for people to see footage of narco-terrorists being blown out of the water, but I would argue that maybe those people need to go into inner city Chicago, or maybe they need to check out Skid Row and see what happens when you have people injecting themselves with drugs, or see what happens to the families in this country that have to deal with children that are ODing. So I have no sympathy for those people that are choosing to traffic drugs into this country, and I definitely don't have any sympathy for the fact that these terrorist networks are responsible for destabilizing and causing mass atrocities in part of these countries in South America, of which I've traveled to. I have seen the mass graves and the footage of mass graves that are responsible and funded largely by these terrorist networks. So no, I don't have sympathy. This is called governing, and we are going to do what we need to do to keep the American people safe.
Governing with Hellfire missiles. Democrats are running a military-style coup on Trump while protecting narco-terrorists, literally trafficking boatloads of drugs into the U.S. They care more about terrorists than American citizens because they're all getting a slice of the pie. Check this out.
Etc. Move over, Maryland dad. Democrats have a new crush. He doesn't wear a bull's hat. He's a cocaine cowboy of the Caribbean. But don't you dare call him the N-word.
There is no such thing as a narco-terrorist. There are very, very bad narcotics people, cartels, etc., but they're desperate to make this look like it's ISIS or Al-Qaeda because that's the very thin line on which their illegal use of the United States military to take these people out resides.
Remember, they said there's no such thing as Antifa either. Now they say they're just fishermen trying to make an honest living.
Most narco traffickers are not in those boats. They pay people to do that, and usually people who are not significantly involved with narco trading. It's the way they make money.
That's like saying most sex traffickers aren't the ones driving the girls around to turn tricks. Those guys are just chauffeurs trying to make money. I guess if a man can be a woman, then a drug trafficker can be a boat captain. ABC says family of a fisherman killed in U.S. boat strike files human rights complaint. A fisherman? Are we going to start calling Epstein an accountant? Did Truman call Hitler the Austrian painter? This just in. The Associated Press says one of the guys on the boat we smoked was a longtime local crime boss who made his living smuggling drugs and women. Che Martinez was jailed in Venezuela on human trafficking charges. This was a bad hombre, and he wasn't trolling for marlin. These boats reek, and it's not because they're packed with pogies. These vessels are stacked to the gills with cocaine. Democrats just say, relax, it's just a little party boat snapping pics of the sunset.
People on a boat in the middle of the Caribbean carrying cocaine are not a direct threat to the lives of our service members or Americans.
The cartels have killed more Americans than Al-Qaeda. They're a direct threat. Overdose deaths, addiction, gang violence, sex trafficking, prostitution, carjacking, all emanate from the drug trade. Why can we bomb Toyota Tundras in the desert but not Coke boats in the Caribbean? They won't tell us. America's dropped bombs on weddings. Apparently, it's bipartisan. We showed you last night, George W. bombed a wedding in Afghanistan. Barack bombed a different wedding in Yemen. Bombs away, Barry bombed hundreds of innocent civilians during the war on terror. Some of the strikes are double taps. And they didn't call him a murderer. They called him Messiah.
Yeah, big difference, right? What a difference an administration makes. Here's President Trump talking about the drug traffickers.
American law. I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release. No problem. You know, we stopped every boat we knock out. We save 25,000 American lives.
That's right. That's right.
And if you look at our numbers, the drugs coming in through sea are down 91%. I'm surprised there's 9%. You want to? I don't know who's doing the 9%, but it's down 91, and we're going to start very soon on land, and I'm sure you're thrilled to hear that. I don't know what
We're going to start very soon on land. The land strikes will soon begin. So here is the bottom line. The Democrats looked at footage of drug traffickers hauling poison into America, and they saw victims. They looked at Trump destroying cartel infrastructure, and they saw a war crime. They sided with narco-terrorists over American families burying their children from fentanyl overdoses. And now the footage proves that those so-called innocent fishermen were crawling back into a destroyed boat to save the cocaine. The hoax is dead. The only question left is why an entire political party threw in with the cartels. How much did they pay them? As one commenter put it, they're all getting a slice of the pie. You see, this was supposed to destroy Trump's war on the cartels. The media had their narrative, the Washington Post publishing it on the paper. The lawyers had their talking points. Admiral Housley resigned. Democrats were screaming war crimes from every microphone they could find. And then the footage dropped, ABC confirming it. Those innocent fishermen, those helpless survivors in clear distress, they climbed back into a burning boat to salvage cocaine. That's not a war crime. That's a legitimate military strike on enemy combatants who chose drugs over their own lives. President Trump said he would treat the cartels like terrorists, and he meant it. Over 100,000 Americans are dying every year from overdoses. Sea smuggling is down 91% since Trump started sinking these boats. You see, the Democrats really only had a choice. You could stand with grieving American families, or you could stand with the narco-terrorists. And of course, what do? They choose the cartels. So here's the question. Do you support Trump sinking these cartel boats? Yes or no? Sound off. And support the mission here at the Next News Network by hitting our merch shop down below. All right, moving right along here. We have some new members. And we have Christy Orbenayer, MAGA, Jesus Christ is King, $15. Thank you. Ruby Hoove just gifted a whole bunch of memberships. 5 new members. Welcome to the family, guys. Good to have you here. And she also dropped $5 on top of it. Liars always lie. The lips are moving. They're spinning another tale. If the lips are moving, spinning another tale. And then she came in with another $5. Sweet. Those fish are crazy fast. If those are fishing boats. That's a good one. That's a good one. Right now, where are we at? We're at $56.97. We're just over halfway there to our goal this evening. Moving into our last topic of the night. And we are moving right along. This story is, Nancy Pelosi is not going to like this one very much at all. Not at all. Over here at the Next News Network, we've been tracking the insider trading scandal on Capitol Hill, and tonight, Representative Anna Paulina Luna just lit the fuse on a bomb that could blow up the entire racket. She just filed a discharge petition to force a floor vote on banning stock trading by members of Congress. No more delays, no more committees, burying it. If she gets 218 signatures, every single member will have to vote on the record. And right now, 3 Democrats on powerful spending committees just got exposed, raking in up to 250% gains on stocks tied to the billions that they control. Yes, my friends, the reckoning is here. And here's what's at stake, though. The members in Congress, they sit in classified briefings. They control trillion-dollar budgets. They regulate entire industries. And then they trade stocks in those same industries and beat the market year after year. Now, Luna says members are getting over 600% returns on their trades. She says 1 in 3 members have exposure to Big Pharma, Vanguard, BlackRock, the very corporations driving some of the worst crises in this nation. 86% of Americans, though, they want a ban on congressional stock trading. Both parties. All regions. It's one of the most unified positions in American politics. And yet, year after year, these bills die in committee. Now, the Stock Act, it was passed in 2012. It was supposed to fix this. It didn't do anything, right? No enforcement, no prosecutions. Lawmakers kept trading and kept winning. But Luna's done waiting. Her discharge petition bypasses leadership entirely. If she hits 218 signature, the bill goes to the floor, whether Speaker Johnson likes it or not. So as we wrap up 2025, it is a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. There's one thing we've all learned. It's that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. And waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan, it's a gamble. And for over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves by diversifying their wealth with gold and silver. Now, nobody knows what 2026 will bring, but one thing is for sure. In an uncertain world, real wealth isn't digital, it's physical, it's lasting, and it's yours. So before the year ends, visit nextnewsgold.com. Get your free wealth protection kit. That's nextnewsgold.com. Do not leave your future to chance. And there is a number on the screen, 877-646-5347. Give them a call, talk to Colin, and ask how you can get those 10 one-ounce silver holiday coins with qualified accounts in time for Christmas. But my friends, the receipts are piling up. All right, Mila Joy exposed 3 Democrats on spending committees: Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Representative Susie Lee, and Senator Mark Warner. Yes, the same one who was calling for a military coup against President Trump yesterday. All allegedly pulling up 250% gains on stocks directly tied to sectors they oversee. A resurfaced 2011 clip, you see it on the screen here, shows a reporter confronting Nancy Pelosi about suspicious trades, but her reaction says everything. And of course, today there's Pelosi tracker apps where over 200,000 users copy Paul Pelosi's trades and beat the S&P 500. Representative Greg Steube signed Luna's petition and said plainly, "Our voters did not send us to Washington to protect Nancy Pelosi's portfolio." Lindell TV actually caught up with Luna. She didn't hold back. They're getting rich off insider trading, and they know it. So let's go back to this moment, 2011. Watch Pelosi's face. It says it all.
You think it's all right? I wanted to ask you why you and your husband, back in March of 2008, accepted and participated in a very large IPO deal from Visa at a time there was major legislation affecting the credit card companies making its way through the House. And did you consider that to be a conflict of interest?
I don't know what your point is of your question. Is there some point that you want to make with that?
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, do you think it's all right for a speaker to accept a very preferential and favorable stock deal?
Well, we didn't.
And you participated in the IPO.
Well, I have many
and at the time you were Speaker of the House. You don't think it was a conflict of interest or had the appearance of a conflict of interest?
It only has the appearance if you decide that you're going to have elaborate on a false premise. But it's not true, and that's that.
I wanted to ask you why
Nancy Pelosi. Oh, yeah. Any member of Congress that says that there's no insider trading in Congress is lying to you, says Anna Paulina Luna. She's the one that has the bill out.
Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Anna, great to see you again. So the first one is, let me get this right. You're going to end Nancy Pelosi's distinguished career of insider trading. Okay, it's high time. You're leading the charge on this.
I am, and it's interesting. People say, well, people, as in members of Congress, will say there's no insider trading taking place in Congress. BS. Most members are making 600% returns after they're aware of the market shifts, after they are aware of information coming to the floor, how it's going to pass. And so we're actually going for an outright ban on stock trading. And my opinion to my colleagues and my statement that I've made very publicly and clearly is if you want to trade stocks, go to Wall Street, but don't do it in Congress. So we're facing bipartisan support from the United States of America. The American people are with us overwhelmingly, but it's within the institution that they're against us. So I actually received word earlier today from a journalist of all people that said that they had received a tip that they're going to try to slow walk this. So I've actually gone forward and filed a discharge petition that I'm ready to call up at any time if they decide to play games.
Well, that's why I want to have you on, give you a leg up, any help I can, because I think you're right. Hang on a second. You may not be able to...
The discharge petition is now officially in play. Check this out. Insider trading, 3 Democrats on powerful spending committees got exposed, raking in up to 250% gains on stocks directly tied to the billions they control. Schultz, Lee, and Warner.
That's back in November, we noticed Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz buying stock in a company called Viasat, and it really caught our eye because it was the first time we'd seen her buy the stock, and it was the first time we'd seen any member buy the stock.
Okay, so Debbie Wasserman Schultz sits on the Appropriations Committee and the Subcommittee on Military Construction. That's not a good look right off the bat.
And then in December, it was announced that Viasat would be awarded part of like a $4 billion NASA contract, and the stock just rose.
Looks like they got another big contract.
You see what's happening here? You following this? This is real time, baby.
So with the Department of Defense, right after the NASA contract.
A couple years ago, we saw Representative Susie Lee buy stock in a company called Rheinmetall. Which is a German defense contractor, which, I mean, that rang alarm bells for us because it was a stock we hadn't really seen any members trade before, and obviously very tied into U.S. defense policy.
It's like they're doing a lot of work with the Army lately. Tank modernization, I bet there's big money in that.
Big money gonna be in her bank account as well.
Susie Lee sat on a committee on military construction, and since then the stock's risen like I think 250%. Last year we saw Senator Mark Wayne Mullen buy stock in a company called Badger Meter, which really caught our attention because Badger Meter makes automated water meters, and Senator Mark Wayne Mullen sits on the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, and we learned that the EPA had recently passed a mandate basically encouraging cities to switch to automated water meters. The year following the trade, Badger Meter stock rose around 40% before Senator Mark Wayne Mullen closed his position. Back in November, we noticed
1, 2, 3, all falling like dominoes. Let's see. Let's get to the Lindell TV clip. Let's see here. This is Allison, and she says they're getting rich. Okay, let's just go to the clip.
Holdouts, but
how many signatures do you have on the discharge petition?
I haven't checked, but we got another few people, I think, today that just signed on. So there's going to be potentially some tweaks. Speaker Johnson has a meeting at around 11:30 with some holdouts, but I'm all for negotiating. But you can't allow the insider trading to continue, and it is happening.
Is there anyone who's vehemently opposed to it that you know of?
Not publicly, because they're worried that I'm going to smack them publicly, like online, which I told them I'm very nice and very reasonable. I'll negotiate, but you guys can't defend insider trading. So I would never consider, publicly naming both sides and members that are insider trading, but the American people can do that. Bipartisan support by the American people, 86% overwhelmingly support it, but there's bipartisan opposition to it internally because people are actually insider trading. What's interesting is the wealthier businessmen that came in that were self-made multimillionaires before getting elected are actually willing to potentially divest. They want to talk about potentially a way to do that. It's the ones that are becoming multimillionaires after coming into Congress because of insider trading that are the ones that are vehemently opposed to it. So you guys will see on the stock trading, I highly recommend the American people look at people on both sides who are actually insider trading, and you'll see who's guilty of it. But I mean, the way that the press is covering this, a lot of members are uncomfortable coming out and saying that they won't support it. So keep doing what you guys are doing.
How many signatures do you have on the discharge?
Keep the pressure on. Here she is, Representative Luna, just 24 hours ago.
Solutions for affordability. Okay, I brought numbers because numbers do not lie. So when you hear members of both parties saying that they have solutions for affordability, the housing crisis, pharmaceuticals, all of this, and yet you look at their personal investments, you'll know that it's literally just political gamesmanship. And unless we actually prevent insider trading, which is happening every single day in Congress, if people are telling you otherwise, they are lying to you, and really look into the regulations on individual stock trading, I would say even make it similar to the executive branch, we are literally going to never be able to fix anything because you have people on both sides that are controlled op for the three big ones, BlackRock, Vanguard, and Big Pharma. Let's look at these numbers real quick. Okay, so in the House, you have 25% of members, and in the Senate, 30% of members that own personally, totaling about $100 million in stocks in Big Pharma. Then you have BlackRock and Vanguard. In BlackRock, that big spooky organization that, in my opinion, is contributing to the housing crisis in this country because they're buying up all those single-family homes. You have about 13 members reporting holdings, but that's a significant number, especially when you have only 535 members. Sorry, the video got cut off there, in both the House and the Senate. So roughly, all that to say, roughly 1 in 3 members of Congress have exposure to either pharmaceutical, Big Pharma, BlackRock, and Vanguard. So do you really think that they're going to be able to fix and bring forward great solutions when they are personally benefiting and impacted off of the legislation that's coming off the House floor? And the answer is no. So look, I'm all for solutions. I will work with anyone to come forward with a solution. But to do nothing is not the angle. And so I know the Speaker actually just went to the press and said that, he's wanting to stop the insider trading. That's great. I think America wants us to stop insider trading. And so I'm happy to work with him. But the point is to do nothing is to do a great disservice to the American people. And I'm not going to be quiet, and I'm not going to let this go because this is a serious issue. If we really want to talk about the crux of the problems in this country, look no further than the insider trading. It is really bad. It needs to stop. Frankly, the American people should be letting their voices heard on this.
So make your voice heard. Here's the reality. In 1 year, Members of Congress made nearly 10,000 trades involving about 706 million shares. They said in briefings that you will never see, then buy and sell stocks in the companies they regulate. And when you ask them about it, they tell you there's no insider trading in Congress, right? I mean, you saw Pelosi's face. Luna says anyone who tells you that's lying to your face. Her discharge petition is a battering ram aimed at the door the leadership has kept locked for years. And if she gets the signature, every member goes on record, and nobody wants to vote against a ban that 86% of America supports. So this is the fight that unites the country, left, right, center, it doesn't matter. 86% of Americans agree Congress should not be allowed to trade stocks while they control the laws that move the markets. But the political class has buried this issue for years because they're all getting rich. Nancy Pelosi's portfolio has become a national joke. Paul Pelosi's trades are so reliable that apps exist just to copy them. And now 3 Democrats on spending committees got caught pulling gains that would make hedge fund managers blush. Now, Luna's not asking for permission anymore. Her discharge petition forces the question right into the open. Every member will have to choose, serve the people or protect your brokerage account. The establishment's terrified because this time the pressure is coming from both sides and from the outside the building. So should Congress be banned from trading stocks? Yes or no? Let's have a conversation in the comments and gear up for the next news merch shop. You'll find it linked in the description. All right. Dave the Patriot is asking, which program are you using for your vids? Fill us in, please. You mean like this live show we're doing right now? Well, that's trade secret. We can't reveal everything. We can't pull back the curtain. No, we can't. But if you're speaking about the videos that you normally see at the beginning of our segments, I actually generate those with Sora 2 using the Cameo feature, which is very simple to use. It's literally, I hold my camera up in front of my face, say a couple words, turn my head, and it gets my entire likeness, my tone, everything. It's amazing how it works. But that's how I make those little videos. I did not have any time to create those mini videos that you'll see when these segments drop on the channel later. So I apologize for that. We were running behind schedule, so I just didn't have time. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Dave, thank you for your support, your $5, Truthy Ruthie. We're at $71.97. Maybe we'll hit the next, on the way out here, someone will drop a $30 bill or something, and we'll hit our goal. But that's where we are tonight. We opened the show talking about Boss Tweed, the kingpin of Tammany Hall, who escaped from jail 150 years ago today. Remember, Tweed thought he was untouchable. He ran a machine that looted taxpayers, rigged election, made insiders rich while ordinary people paid the price. And when the walls finally closed in, he ran. They caught him anyway. They dragged him back in chains, and the machine collapsed. Well, tonight, 150 years later, we watched a new generation of machines start to crumble. The January 6th pipe bomb finally has a name, Brian Cole Jr. For 5 years, the Biden DOJ told you the case was unsolvable. Then new leadership looked at the same evidence and made an arrest in weeks. But of course, the questions are only beginning. Steve Baker and Blaze Media identified a Capitol police officer as the bomber just weeks ago. And now some are asking if Cole is the real bomber or a convenient patsy to bury the story. Either way, the MAGA insurrection narrative is bleeding out. And of course, the Autopen scandal exploding to a whole new level. President Trump fired off over 160 posts in a night and dragged Michelle Obama directly into the controversy, reposting claims that she may have used Biden's Autopen to push through last-minute pardons. The paper presidency now has new names attached to it. And of course, the media is screaming, but the questions are not going away. In Minnesota, Tim Walz is crying about mean words while his state burns to the ground. Billion-dollar fraud, ICE raids, illegal licenses, congressional investigations, and now Mike Lindell has filed to take his job. The Pillow Man versus the fraud governor. And Stephen Mills. Here you go, Gary, dropping $30 and Poppy dropping $9.99. Hippo Character and Deplorable Diva dropping $2, bringing us right over the target. Thank you guys for that last-minute super chat. Sincerely, I'm so grateful you guys did that. Every time we hit that goal, I feel so good. It makes me feel so happy. You don't even realize. Wow, that was cool, guys. Really cool. But, when I go to bed tonight with my pillow, I'll be thinking about you guys. But talking about the race for governor, it became a referendum on whether Minnesota survives or not. And then the war crimes hoax against Pete Hegseth has collapsed in spectacular fashion. Drone footage showing those so-called innocent fishermen climbing back into a burning boat to salvage cocaine. The Democrats sided with narco-terrorists over American families. Sea smuggling is down 91%. Trump is winning the cartel war, and they can't stand it. And Anna Paulina Luna just lit the fuse on insider trading. Her discharge position could force every member of Congress to vote on banning stock trades. 3 Democrats just got caught pulling 250% trades. Pelosi tracker apps exist because her husband's trades are that reliable. But the truth is, 86% of Americans want it stopped. And Luna, she's done waiting. So Boss Tweed, he'd learned the hard way. You can't run from the truth forever. So tonight, from Virginia to Minnesota to the halls of Congress, a new generation of insiders is learning that same lesson. So thank you to everybody who sent in super chats and Rumble Rants tonight. You guys keep the show alive. Keep telling your friends about the Raw feed. Hit the merch shop and gear up. I'm Gary Franchi. I want to thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you all on the next show.